And we're back.
We live?
Yes, we are.
Hey, I'm good to be alive. I'm glad to be alive.
I think we fixed the slight audio issue, so now hopefully this stuff actually comes out the same time it comes out of our mouth.
Or I could just talk slower.
We could talk a lot slower. No, we're gonna do a segment now that we like to call "Find Out Some Shit."
And now with your find out some shit update.
Dan came to me with a good question, good ideas. He had some questions about computers and stuff. And he being a regular consumer, doesn't know exactly everything that, goes into what's important about buying a computer. And he's looking at updating his computer system. And I update computer systems all the time, much to my wife's chagrin. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to buy a computer and how all this shit works. And I'm going to try not to get too technical.
I will stop you if you do.
I'm going to keep it at an Apple level. As much as I possibly can. The stuff that people need to know about, though, I should try to technically explain. Not too far. I'll try and keep it basic.
How about we ask you some questions and you answer them, and we'll interrupt you when you're getting too technical.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, stop. Do you mean that is okay with you?
Yes.
When you say sounds good to me?
Yes.
That means it is okay with him.
That's right.
Okay,
This is an
next question, please.
Apple discussion.
Okay. All right, stop being dumb. Stop being dumb. I can't help it, but okay.
Have a little fun and learn about computers. Let's do it.
All right.
What do you got?
First of all, what is the very first thing I should look for when going to buy a computer? I just walked into the mall. Let's just say the mall has several stores like Best Buy, Walmart,
Yeah.
this company and that company.
Right.
What's the first thing I should ask?
Well, the first thing you want to look for when you're looking at a computer is what size computer would actually be right for you.
Okay.
In other words, I'm not talking about cock size. I'm talking about screen size. Literally, that's the very first thing I always tell people. If you can get away with looking at a very small screen, then you'll be okay with a smaller screen computer, and you're going to pay less money for that. Oh. But if you're getting older, and I especially tell this to a lot of people who are older and want to buy a new computer, definitely go for the bigger screen. 15 inches and above is the minimum you should be looking at. Simply because if you want to be able to magnify stuff on your screen, you want to be able to do it in a way that's going to be able to show up. God damn it! It's going to be able to show off what you need or what you want to get access to on the computer. So that's the first thing you look for. How big is the computer?
What is the biggest screen?
Well, when we're talking about laptops, which by the way we are kind of talking about laptops here, you're asking what the biggest screen is.
Yeah.
I think the biggest laptop screen I've ever seen is probably close to 19 inches.
And does that necessarily mean better as far as you got a better computer?
No.
So you can still buy a 19-inch
Yes. Well,
and still get...
the most common laptops right now, screen-wise, are 15 and 17-inch. But there are smaller ones. And people that are younger actually have a better chance of using the smaller ones. They're easier to tote around. You don't have to, drag along this massive, enormous suitcase of a computer. You have a smaller machine, and you can, you can take that along. You can throw it in a backpack. You can do, whatever you want with it. Hell, some computers are small enough you can almost put them in your pocket, if that tells you anything. But then you have these enormous computers, 15 and 17 inches, and that's a big machine. Like this laptop we have here, this is a 15-inch laptop. Okay? And that's not very big. To me, it's not very big, but it does what I need it to do. And I don't have a real big problem with seeing smaller stuff yet, so I go with this. But you get to this size here, and at that point, your benefits outweigh, like the resolutions for these can be higher than a smaller machine. You know what I mean? Like the tighter pixels in there, so you can watch like a high definition movie on this laptop. But other laptops that are a bit smaller may not be able to do that. Again, you're going to pay more for the larger laptop sizes, like the larger screen sizes, but not by much. Maybe $100, $200.
Let's say we have 3 different customers.
Okay.
Okay, we're buying computers for 3 different customers.
Okay.
Customer number 1 is a grandma, but still a little bit technically savvy, willing to learn grandma.
Okay.
Not none of this. I don't buy nothing online. I don't do nothing online. They're out to steal me and get me and take my numbers online.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. What the
They
hell?
send a check through a mail.
What the fuck is Facebook? Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck your Facebook up. Oh, no, I don't think grandmas really say that.
You're my face. I'm gonna access your my face page and yeah. No, okay, that's number 1. Who's number 2?
Customer number 2 would be a 30 to 50 year old, middle of the road, somebody that typically knows both worlds, the wired and the not wired. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yep.
And the third one would be the totally wired teenager.
Okay.
Customer number 1, the old lady, how big of a computer does she need?
I would definitely say 14 or 15 inches minimum, if not the bigger 17-inch machine. It also depends on the portability. Usually grandmas aren't going to take a machine other places. And in that case, if that's the situation, if it's not a laptop, I would suggest a desktop. And at that point, she can modify what size screen ever she wants. She can get a 32-inch screen if she wants, which is probably a lot better for her in this case. She has it at home. She can use this thing. She doesn't have to lug it anywhere. That's a great idea. The 30 to 50-year-old, depending on, and that's one of the questions I usually ask people, is exactly what are you going to do with this computer? You know what I mean? If you're going to just go and check your email and go online and check Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and that's pretty much the extent of what you're doing, you don't need a really super powerful machine. You don't need something that's going to, blow the doors off of most other machines.
No, but I would say most people, though, their knowledge doesn't stop with computers, only if they choose to, and those people will eventually just stop using the computer.
Right.
But they will steadily grow towards getting wired.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But that's the thing. The second customer you have, the 30 to 50-year-old who's just looking at, it really comes down to what they want to use it for. Now, I'm pretty sure that person's probably not going to use that machine for gaming. Now, the next question that usually we would ask would be,
Where's your restroom?
I gotta pee. No. The question you would ask is, what exactly you're going to use this machine for, and if the word gaming even comes up, that changes the ballpark of everything. Now you want to game, that's a totally different situation.
Now we're talking hardcore, best of the best, fastest of the fastest.
Yes. Yeah.
Professional.
Yes.
Fuck laptops, you need a desktop.
Right, exactly. And there's still gamer laptops. You can still get those, but you're going to pay through the wazoo for those. I mean, quite commonly, a laptop that is proficient at gaming is going to be anywhere in the upwards of $1,200, if not more. But that's because the components that are in it are streamlined specifically for stuff like gaming. So, it really depends on what you're going to do with it. If you're going to go from place to place and you want to be able to play, then yeah, you're going to want that really expensive laptop, and you can expect to pay for it. But if you're not going to do that and you want to game, then you're right. Desktop's the way to go. Easily.
Okay. Now, we walked into the store, we determined customer number 1 needs a 17-inch, customer number 2, 17-inch, and we're going to go with a 14.5-inch for the teenager.
Okay.
Just because their eyes are better.
Yeah.
Now, what's the next step?
The next step is determining just how much processing power you need.
What is processing power?
Processing power is the ability for the computer to crunch numbers and do tasks.
Would that be considered speed?
Yes.
Okay.
The speed of the machine is anchored by how fast and how many core processes these CPUs can do. There are quite literally a variety, thousands of different types of CPUs that you can get for any kind of machine. When it comes to laptops, they're different than when you have a desktop.
And that is the central processing unit.
Yes.
Which
yep.
is the mind of the computer.
Yes, and it's a chip. It's just one giant chip. That's basically what it is. Now, they have smaller versions of those chips, but they're shit, and nobody wants those. The chip that you're going to get is a decent-sized chip, and it really can make a difference when it comes to how much stuff you're going to be doing with the computer. The most common chips that are out and available right now are Intel and AMD. It's two brands, they're kind of head-to-head. There aren't too many other outside that, except for what go into like cell phones and smaller like Chromebooks and stuff like that, and tablets. Tablets
And
actually.
those are
have a-
ridiculously small.
Yeah, well, not necessarily so much that they're small. They're just built in a different way, and like
Unusable.
well, you can't use them. I mean, you could technically use them for a laptop. Like they have a thing called the A6 chip and the A7 chip and the Snapdragon and chips like those. But they're literally made just for the smaller devices, like tablets and, you know, it's really, really small, not too powerful Chromebooks and things like that. That's just a bunch of shit you don't have to deal with. But Intel and AMD are really the two processors you deal with when it comes to laptops and desktops.
What would the customer see? Would they see Intel and then right away, no, well, that's good machinery, or not necessarily? What's
Yeah.
the other name of
AMD.
it? AMD.
Yeah. Yes and no. If you want to get a basic machine, then I suggest right off the top get Intel. Intel's been in the game the whole time. Really, honestly, the very first personal computers had Intel chips in them. They weren't all Intel chips, but a lot of stuff was built around the 8088, which was the first computers that really, had some notoriety, had Intel chips in it. The 8086, which was the really, really old ones, they had Intel chips, but they had other manufacturers that made them too. But Intel's the one that really sort of grew up, and you knew about Intel. AMD came along to be a pain in their ass. AMD came along and said, you know what, we're going to make these chips, we're going to make them cheaper, make them just as fast, if not better. And at one point in time, they had a little bit of a different processing power than Intel did. So they were kind of like, AMD was fast, but some programs didn't like to work with it. So it was kind of like, oh, this is going to throw a monkey wrench into everything. Eventually that all changed. After the Athlon processor, the AMDs, those were sort of the ones that were at the beginning when Intel had Pentium, AMD had Athlon. As they both grew up, they started realizing, hey, we can run sort of the same way, but AMD is still much cheaper than Intel. Now they go neck and neck for the most part. The only thing, though, is that AMD is still considered more the lesser of the CPUs. They don't get as much respect as they should. Let's just put it that way. But they do have really good gaming chips. They have a new one called the Ryzen. The Ryzen chips, now the Ryzen 7 has come out. The Ryzen 9, I think, is coming out. Those chips were extremely powerful, and they are a huge competitor to Intel, but only at the gaming level. If you want a game, you can use either Intel or you can use AMD. Totally up to you.
So our first two customers would just generally stick with Intel.
Yes, and the only reason why I suggest that is because you're not going to get any type of programmatic problems with an Intel chip. Plus the fact that Intel has integrated very, very well when it comes to buying stuff from Best Buy or from Dell or from, you know what I mean? Like, you see those things as being more or less coherent with one another. They both work really well together, because here you'll have like a Core i3, which a Core i3 processor is sort of the slower Intel processor. It's a real, it's quick, but it's just sort of like that lesser one. The thing though is that it's working a lot more to try and catch up to what the other I family is. I5, i7, i9.
There is no even numbers in this?
Correct. So you only have odd numbers, and 7 was the highest for a very long time, Core i7. Now there is a Core i9, and they're in the 9th generation. So anytime you see, whenever you see a 4-digit number after the core, so in other words, Core i7-8700, the first number in the 8700 is the generation. So you know that that machine came out about from this time to this time, or that processor, I should say, came out from this time to this time. Right now, they're in the 9th generation. The good guesstimation here, and usually this works out pretty well, is if you think yearly. 2019 is a 9 at the end, so the 9th generation is 2019. So you know it's the newest stuff. That's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's like cars. You know what I mean? Like right now we have 2020 vehicles you can buy, but it's not 2020, you know?
Apple i20 coming up?
Yeah, the Apple iPhone 11, like, yeah, and they haven't been around very long. But
What does it mean? What does the SSD mean?
SSD is, there's storage drives, okay? Storage drives are basically anything where you have a need to store files, information, anything into or on the machine. So in other words, if you have MP3 files, which are music files, you want to store them someplace, you have to store them on the hard drive. Now, there are thumb drives, you know, like the USB drives that you can plug in. Those are temporary storage. They're not meant to last forever. But the internal drives, usually on a machine, are composed of technically 3 types of drives. Okay. The first drive that you can get was the original HDD, what they call the hard drive. Hard disk drive is what HDD stands for. And that has mechanical features. In other words, it has things, moving parts inside of it. You can hear it running. Yeah. And you know, if you listen really close, you can hear this thing moving. Yes, spin, yes. And that was the other thing too, is if you plug one in and try to do this with it, it was like a gyroscope, where because it was spinning on the inside, it would get some resistance when you try to spin it. So that's an HDD. An SSD is a solid state drive, which just plainly means there's no moving parts inside this drive. It's just chips. That's all it is. It's, imagine just a bunch of little IC chips, those little black chips you see on just about any kind of electronics. And that's all this drive is made up of. It has nothing but those chips in it. Because it doesn't have moving parts, it's inherently faster. It doesn't have to wait for the drive to spin up. It doesn't have to wait for the arms to move back and forth to read the magnetic data. It just automatically gathers the information from the chips that are in the SSD drive. And then there's another one that's a newer one that has been really sort of marketed and promoted to people who build high-end machines and know what they're doing, which is called an M2 drive. It's still a solid-state drive, so in other words, it's just like a solid-state drive, but it comes in a smaller chipset, or like a smaller area. It's like a rectangle, and they come in different lengths. Usually, if you look up the number, like the most common M2 drives that you can buy are 2280, which simply means they're 22 millimeters wide and 80 millimeters long. But they have different sizes that aren't just 80s. You can get, I think, 60s and 40s, which are really, really short, but they're not very big. Like, you can't get a lot of data on those. So the most common ones are the 2280s. But anyway, those drives, the SSD drives and the M2 drives, do not go really, really high above 1 terabyte. The reason being is because there's not a lot of room to store more chips in there. So what they're having to do is create better chips that have the ability to store more data inside of them. The problem with that is you get above 1 TB, which is a lot of data. I mean, 1 TB is that's a lot of data. Not for a video guy like me, but it holds a lot of data. But you can get a 2 TB drive now for SSD, but they're really expensive. They're like $300, $400. They're fast, and the only other thing, you remember the difference between cassette tapes and CDs?
Yeah.
Cassette tapes were better were good because they would always, you couldn't scratch a cassette tape and it get messed up. But a CD, you scratch it, it's messed up. But if you took care of a CD, the quality was better than a tape. And if the tape could become unspooled, you could mess up the tape and then the tape's screwed. Very much similar things between hard drives and SSD drives. Very similar things. Hard drive, if you take it and throw it against the wall, you will more than likely never get anything back off that hard drive again. If you picked up a laptop or a computer that had a hard drive in it and you dropped it too hard, you would wipe out everything on the hard drive. SSD drives, on the other hand, do not do that. You can destroy an SSD drive, don't get me wrong. It would take a lot. You'd have to drive a car over it practically, and even then you could still retrieve the stuff that's on it.
Yeah, didn't you see Terminator 2?
I did. So I mean, there's that. The other thing too is that SSD drives are very much like USB drives in the effect that if you erase something and you throw it in the recycling bin, on an SSD drive, it will wipe it out forever. There is no going back on the SSD drive and trying to find it. That's good and that's bad.
Yeah, I could see why.
Right. Because if you mess up and you deleted something off your SSD drive, there's almost no chance of you getting it back, period. Same thing with the USB drive, for the most part. But an HDD, a regular hard drive, you could do that. You could go back and read what was on the platters because it leaves a residue of magnetics, and you go back and usually get some of the stuff back that you lost, if it crashes or whatever. We're winking! SSD drives, because they don't have a platter, because they don't have any magnetic stuff, they cannot be written over and then reread underneath. There's no residue. There's nothing left there to be able to check. So it's really good for like companies that want to protect their stuff. Once it's gone, it's gone. For the most part, you can't get it back. So that's why a lot of people also like SSD drives.
How about, say, computer criminal forensics people?
They cannot get it back.
So we need to get an SD.
Yes. Yes, we need to know where we're storing the weed.
They need to.
Yes. Yeah. They need to get it. They need to get it. There you go. Hide the bodies.
What else does customer number 1 and number 2 need to know before buying that computer?
The other thing is RAM.
RAM?
Yes. There's a couple of other things too. RAM is usually super important. You need to have a minimum amount to run most programs.
Which is how much?
Nowadays, it's about 4 gigabytes of RAM. So if you're going to run Windows 10, which is always a good thing, I highly suggest Windows 10. I used to be a Windows XP fanatic, but now I'm a Windows 10 fanatic. But if you're going to run Windows 10, you really have to have a minimum of 4. Now, they tell you that the recommended minimum is 2 gigabytes, but 4 is really what you kind of need to be at. But I always suggest if you can get more RAM, because really, RAM is not like storage. Storage, like the SSD drives, is just a place for you to be able to store some information. Now, Windows uses both RAM and drives to run their operations. When they're doing stuff on your computer, they're using both. The thing, though, is that RAM is really the go-to when it comes to, I want to run something very quickly. It's going to store whatever it is, that program, on the RAM, and then play it back for me. So in other words, when I open up a window to go surf the internet, I open Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge or whatever, the majority of what I'm looking at is stored in RAM as a process. It's basically what they call an H1 process, which is just a hardware ID or an identification of this one process that's running and where it's stored in the RAM. That's kind of what Windows does. It just sort of keeps the information for you. It sort of like keeps it all together, huddled up, and you know exactly what's going on because it's Windows. You know, you're used to it. But the stuff that's really going on in the background, there's a lot of shit going on.
Do they still have ROM?
They do, and computers still have ROM in them. But we don't use it as much as we used to. And there's only a couple of things that really kind of, that really used ROM to begin with. Read-only memory is what that was short for. The other one, RAM, is random access memory. Read-only memory was just for stuff you wanted to have stored on that computer, and specifically, say, like the logo of the motherboard. Whoever makes the motherboard inside the computer, they have a ROM chip, and that ROM chip has the logo of that company. So if it's Asus, if it's MSI, if it's any of these companies, their logo would be stored on that chip. And if you go into your BIOS or you go into any kind of Windows thing to say, oh, this is what kind of motherboard it is, that little logo will pop up because it's stored on that chip and will always be stored on that chip. You can't write over it. That's what they mean by read only. Just it's only there to be read. But a lot of manufacturers are getting away from that because it's valuable real estate that they can be using for other shit. And in order to access ROM, uses a really old technique. And they don't want to use that technique anymore. They want to use new, updated kind of stuff. So, yeah, there's not really a lot of ROM chips on a computer anymore. RAM is another big one. Another one to take a look at is also the video card that's running in the machine. The video card is important because depending on what you're going to be doing with the machine, it can make all the difference. One video card might be good enough to run just simple tasks or processes on Facebook or to watch videos on YouTube or whatever. Whereas another one might be needed in order to do higher end stuff like video editing and playing video games. If you play a video game, you need to have a decent video card. The other thing that a video card is important for as well is if you want to be able to watch on multiple monitors. But you've seen my machines. My machines all have dual monitors, except for this one, because this one's just tiny.
It's a laptop.
Yeah, it's a laptop. But I can run multiple monitors on that. Thing is, though, is if I do that, then I'm sending extra data down the line, which is going to cause the computer to get even slower. Because the video card in here is not that good. But you have other machines that have bigger video cards in them. You can run 4, 6 monitors for that machine. I have a machine in the computer room that will actually run 6 monitors. Yeah, I won't do that because it's kind of like, what the hell's the point now? You know what I mean? It's like,
You could pay attention to 6 monitors
exactly,
anyway.
exactly. No, it's good for tasks. Like you have something you want to be able to get done. Multiple monitors is really, really good. But if you have way too many, it's just like trying to play bingo. When you have 6 cards in front of you, you're just like, you know what I mean? Like you're constantly always having to scan everything. It just sucks. Yeah. I went to 2 monitors back in the 90s, and I never came back from that. I always have to have 2 monitors, except for laptops. That's the only thing I like to do. But video cards are also important. That's kind of the last of the list when it comes to laptops. Like if you're looking for a computer, I don't go looking for video cards in the computer right away. It's not the first thing I'm looking at. There's always kind of like a hierarchy. It's usually screen size. It tells me a little bit about how much room in the computer is. And that's the other thing too. If you have a 17-inch laptop, it's going to stay cooler because it's a bigger surface. So all the components that are on the inside of that thing are going to be able to get more air to go across them. See what I'm saying? Like it would make it so that you can get that thing to cool down a lot quicker than other stuff. But I always go with the size, then I go with the CPU size or type. and then I go with RAM, and then video card size, and then hard drives are not necessarily a big thing because they're not that expensive, so I can always update a hard drive, make it, whatever I want for the most part. I bought this laptop, and I didn't have an SSD drive in it, and they wanted to charge me $350 to put a bigger hard drive in it, and I was like, yeah, no, you know what, I'm just going to pay the $120 and just go get it myself, and put it in myself, and I did, and fine. So then again, I did void my warranty when I did that.
And that's
Yeah, fuck.
well. Hey, one more final question.
Okay.
We have time for one more final question.
Okay.
And Meg from Quahog writes.
Oh, Meg from Quahog. Dear guides.
Does it really matter if you buy a Dell or a Hewlett Packard
An HP.
or Packard Bell or?
It does. It does, and there's a couple reasons why. Throughout the years, originally, a lot of the companies were just creating what they created by components that they got, put it together, and that was their thing. A lot of the companies are very similar to one another now. HP and Dell are the leaders of the pack. When it comes to laptops, if we're talking strictly about laptops, those are the two big ones, okay? You also have other companies like Lenovo, Acer, MSI, Asus, all these other companies, but they're small peanuts compared to HP and Dell. Are they comparable? Yes, but no. Why that is because Dell will put together a much slicker looking device, and it cools so much better than I have ever seen an HP cool. Oh, Toshiba is another good one too. No, I mean, is another good name for, laptop that you buy. Not a good laptop. Damn it, Rick. Damn it, Marty. Yeah. No, but the thing is I prefer Dell, and the reason why I prefer Dell is because they have really gotten their processes down. They've got the shit. You know what I mean? It's like, now, not everybody agrees with that comment, and the reason being is because people are like that for all kinds of shit. Order shit, boom. You know what I mean? That's just the way people are.
That's just one of those things. It's opinion only.
Right. Now, you're going to run into issues no matter what. I used to be a big Seagate hard drive guy until Seagate fried, until 7 of my Seagates fried out of the 12 that I owned. They fried within like a 2-year period. And I was devastated. I lost a lot of work. And I'll never go back to Seagate ever again. But that's just me. Every HP laptop that I've ever owned has broken. It's broken in one way or another. The hinges break off, or the screen gets cracked, or the bezel around the screen gets messed up. And I've never had a good time with it. I've never had a good time. And there's no other laptops on earth that I've had experience with a lot of laptops. And I've not met any that have been like a Dell. The Dells aren't perfect either. Dells have their problems, like their keyboards get messed up for no reason whatsoever. Or it seems like no reason whatsoever. At least that's what my daughter tells me. I'm just like, you bent it, didn't you? She's like, no.
I woke up and it was like that.
Yeah, with my book bag on top of it. Mm-hmm. Sure. But no, that so you get things like that just happen. And you can't really judge that by the surface. It's kind of like being like, oh, well, the tires I got on my brand new car suck. You know what I mean? Well, you really can't judge the car by the fact the tires suck. You know what I mean? That's just... So you just have to kind of take it. And every laptop that I've had has just gone to shit in no time flat, except for the Dells. The Dells that I've had have all been just great machines. Now, that's not an endorsement for Dell, although it kind of is.
It sounds like it is.
I will sell people on Dell every single time, but that's because they're stupid enough to give me a credit. They're like, yeah, here, have $1,000. I'm like, oh, sweet. About 4 laptops. But no, Dells are good computers. I've not really had issues, and they keep up with their stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I keep getting updates and stuff. It says, you got to update this, and that's good for me.
Do they still have that creepy guy working for them? Dude, you're getting a Dell. Whatever happened? Was it Steve? Was his name Steve?
I don't remember. He went to jail. Dude, you're getting a cell.
Did he go to jail?
Yeah, he did for something. I forget what it was. Something stupid, like heroin production or something. I don't remember.
So
Anyway.
they're not going to go with him anymore.
No. That's been gone for a while now. As a matter of fact, you don't see too many Dell commercials anymore.
No.
But they just have a name, so it's like one of those things. Apparently, this laptop, its regular webcam is on. I need to turn that off. That's probably one of the reasons why we're having problems. Anyway, so that kind of concludes our should I buy a computer or not segment.
What
And
kind
what
of
do I need?
computer is best for me?
There we go. That's it. So,
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
yeah,
I'm Dan,
I'm Jeff.
and that's Jeff.
Yes, and that's Dan. And this is the Jeff and Dan Show. And hey, man, if you like what you see, like, subscribe, come visit us. We really could use some subscribers. And let us know what you think, man. Let us know what you think. Leave your comments down in the... No, not you, because you're just going to leave weird shit. Just don't put anything. Stop.
You know
Stop.
who you are.
Okay. And then, yeah, definitely, if you like what you see, like and subscribe. Come visit us at jeffanddan.com. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter. Yeah. All right, man. Peace
Thank
out,
you.
bro.